This morning because I have a call. 9:45. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Your sound lag. You're going to the one that sounds line. Okay. The section that we're reading, we're going to be discussing text 24, 10, 14, 24, but going back to text 22. Well, even before we go to text 22, this is Brahma, and we're in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So what does Brahma teach? And it's in the Bhagavatam. And something that will help us understand what Brahma teaches is by understanding what Madhva says, because Madhva is the foundational preceptor in our line. What Madhva says about, because the topic of 22 and 24 and the earlier ones, it's the first three of the 9 prameyas of Madhva. So there's pramana, that means evidence. Evidence of what is the prameya, that which is to be known. Pramana gives evidence of prameya, that which is to be known. And according to Madhva, there's 9 prameyas found within the Vedas. The first one is Hari is the source of everything. Superlative person, who is the source of everything. Hari, not Brahman. Hari. Then the next has to do with the living entities. And the living entities are individual and they're also real, because Shankara teaches otherwise. And then there's the material creation. So the material creation is also real. Prakriti is real. And there's further details. So now that's Madhva, and then several generations, centuries later actually, Baladev Vidyabhusan expanded, because in Lord Chaitanya's line Baladev comes. So he, from what Madhva wrote, he wrote the Prameya Ratnavali, which is slightly different and quite similar to Madhva's teaching. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur took those Prameya Ratnavali and he put, in his own unique way, the 10 essential teachings of Lord Chaitanya. 10 essential teaching, he called it Dasa Mula Tattva. Dasa Mula Tattva. I mentioned this before, but because it's going to come up in the morning's reading, so this morning is about the jiva, but text 22 was about the universe, and it's Shaktis, the whole section. So, question. According to Brahma's teachings, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, and according to Lord Chaitanya's teaching, is the universe real, or is it false, like a dream? Is it real, or is it false, like a dream? And you read the translation of 22, and it sounds like it's false, like a dream. That's because that's how it's been translated. So is it true? Is this universe real, or is it false? like a dream. Here's text 22. Therefore, this entire universe, which is like a dream by its nature, unreal, nevertheless appears real, and thus it covers one's consciousness and assails one with repeated miseries. This universe appears real because it is manifested by the potency of illusion emanating from you, whose unlimited transcendental forms are full of eternal happiness and knowledge. So the answer to the question, is it real, has to do with the way the verse is translated from the Sanskrit, which is asat svarupam, and in the word for word, whose existence is unreal in the sense of temporary, asat svarupam. Now, Madhva says it's real. And so listen carefully. He asserts his statement in two ways, by logic and reason in Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra states that dreams are inspired by Paramatma, who is real. Thus, even dreams are also real. Vedanta Sutra. They're temporary, they appear to be real, but there's something that's going on when you're dreaming. Supposing you're happy, or supposing you're afraid and you're screaming, or you're perspiring, your heart's beating, or you're crying, or something. On the subtle plane, something is going on. Whatever that something is, temporary, so that's asat, means temporary. It's not substantial. Substantial is sat. And this is insubstantial, but it doesn't mean this doesn't exist. So, similarly, in Madhva's Tattva Sankhyanam, he writes, without two real objects and similarity between those two objects, there's no possibility of mistaking one for another, even in dreams, etc. So it's a philosophy, but if you dream something, that something's going on in your dream, it means that dream is a representation. There's a similarity between that which is in your dream and something that exists. So if the something that you're dreaming of doesn't exist, how can you dream of something that doesn't exist? And then what's in the dream has a similarity to, although it's temporary, it's a real object that's producing some real emotions, and on the subtle plane, yes. In a dream state, yes, but it's something that's happening. It's not that, say it negatively, it's not that something that happens in the physical plane is the only thing that exists. Because even on the physical plane, heart palpitation, perspiring, something is going on the physical plane because of what's going on in the subtle plane, even in a dream. So it exists. So that his point is, from this commentary on this Vedanta Sutra verse, read it again. Without two real objects and similarity between those two objects, there's no possibility of mistaking one for another, even in dreams. It's like the rope and snake. So, if you're interested in understanding what I just said, and you didn't quite understand it, and you really want to find out what I just said, you can go online and 9 Pillars of Sri Madhva's Philosophy. It's very detailed. It's somewhat concise, but it's sufficiently detailed that what Shankara says, what Madhva says, and what Jiva Goswami or Lord Chaitanya says, it's quite clear. And it's philosophy, it's Sambandha again. Is this universe real, or is it false? Jagat mithya. And what is even, in this little seminar, what does mithya mean? It's not exactly false. not exactly real. It's nirvachanir, you can't describe it. That's what it is. Word jugglery. But it's not sat. It's asat. Asat means you can't describe it. It appears to be real, but it's not because it's asat. Anyway, that's the rendering of Shankara, and then there's the rendering of Madhva. It's real. And then Brahma, because Madhva's teachings come from Brahma, but Lord Chaitanya has a specific understanding of what Brahma's teaching here. And that's the simultaneous oneness and difference. So we can say real and unreal, depending upon their perspective and what you mean by asat. Is that which is asat just literally doesn't exist, it's zippo? Or it's temporary, manifest from the Supreme Lord and is withdrawn by the Supreme Lord. And that sense is temporary, although Prakriti is eternal. Then it goes into philosophy. So I'm bringing that up because reference is made in the commentary, in the purport of text 24. What I just discussed. Is this world true or false? Then we're speaking about the jivas. Text 24. Those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you in this way, namely, as the very soul of all souls, the supersoul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. So focus is going to go to the illusory material existence. I mean, there's a distinction between Atma and Paramatma. That's one thing. And then there's Prakriti. This is, what's the relationship between all these things? Is material existence real or not real? Is it illusory, as Shankara says, it just doesn't exist? Or is it illusory in the sense that it appears to be real, although it appears to be eternal, although it's not? It appears to be substantial, although it's insubstantial. It's now you see it, now you don't. So which is it? This is how to see the world. And the BBT commentary begins, Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tatvataha, takmadeham purnarjanma, naiti mamiti sorjana. It just gives the translation of that verse, and that's the purport. Quote, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So crosses over the ocean of the material existence. Vishwanath drills down. Even the worshippers of impersonal Brahman, if they get the good fortune of devotion to the personal form of Paramatma, can attain the status of Shantabhaktas. So those who worship Paramatma, the Paramatma realized devotees, because some devotees, in previous ages at least, their bhakti was towards Paramatma, and their attainment is Shantabhakta. Seeing you as described above, evam vidham, as the soul of all the jivas, sakalat manam, in a form which gives pleasure to the mind and eyes, shobha atmanam, in the form of Paramatma, Atma Mataya, attain Shanta Bhakti. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, so his authority for that, Vishwanath's authority for saying what he just said, Paramat Mataya Krishne Jata Shanti Ratir mata. Seeing Krishna as Paramatma, a person attains Shantarati. Paragraph. How does this take place? That person who attains proper vision through study of Upanishads, through the mercy of Guru, sees Krishna as Paramatma and seems, underlines, to cross the false ocean of material existence. So, question, does he cross the ocean of Maya or not? Because it says iva, as if, like. And Vishwanath replies, no, it is as if he crosses iva. The universe that he crosses, bhava, that's the ocean of struggle, has also been described as false, or anritta, in this verse. Anritta, the word for word, BBT, word for word, is which is not real. Anritta. According to the theory of Vivartavad, so I hope you don't get too confused, this is Shankara's teaching. Vivartavada, literally it means superimposing one thing on another thing. It's very similar to Upadhi. The classic, I learned this from studying Jiva Goswami, the classic definition of Upadhi is like a pond or a lake covering the land. So when you look at the pond or the puddle or lake, different sizes, it looks like water, but really it's just something covering the land. So the pond or the puddle, you can say that's an upadhi, really it's land. They're just something covering it, so water covering the land. So superimposition, or Vivartavad, says all there is Brahman, and once upon a time Brahma decided, I want to get covered, so he gets covered. I mean, it's not quite, that's a little facetious, but Maya covers Brahman, and that covering of Brahman is the upadhi. I'm this body, and I'm a particular body type. There's characteristics of body types, and characteristics of our feelings, and characteristics of this and that. All of that's simply upadhi, it's just Maya, and all there is Brahman. So that's the Vivartavad. Superimposition of something upon another something. So that presupposes that Maya is real, because but their thing is Maya is false. It's not only false, it literally doesn't exist. So how does something literally that doesn't exist cover something that is the only thing that exists? There's holes, or their teaching collapses upon itself. If you go to that 9 pillars of Madhva's teachings, you'll find that explained in very, very detail, and it's clear. Okay, so according to the theory of Vivartavad, that is popular with the Gyanis, the world is literally false. Therefore, crossing such a material world is also false. Thus, they have been described as seeming to cross the ocean of material existence. In these 2 verses, this is explained. So that's a paraphrase of how Mayavadis may read what we just, this verse of Brahma. Crossing the ocean means there's a person. And then the ocean is also, is it a real entity or is it false? So, those who are ignorant of the jiva as the source of knowledge and bliss, enter into the material realm. And by knowledge gained through Sankhya, Vairagya, Tapas, and Bhakti, that the body is different from the soul, the ocean of material existence is destroyed. It's not just crossed over, but it's finished. The illusion is finished by knowledge. That's the point. It is like seeing the rope as a snake. By ignorance, the material world continues, and by knowledge, the material world ceases. Now, that's it for this morning, because it's like philosophy is hard to chew sometimes. When Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, it was long before Shankaracharya existed. At the same time, the notion of all there is Brahman is not a new notion. It's, that notion seems to be embedded within the Vedas. At least the Gyanis take it that way. There certainly were Gyanis. And one of our understandings about why Vyasa compiled the Vedas the way that he did is the personality of Godhead is fulfilling the desires of all living entities. Let's say it negatively. Why, if Vyasadeva knew the conclusion, why didn't he just give the conclusion? Why did he give all this other stuff? Then people think the other stuff is the conclusion. Like Karmakanda. Why have Karmakanda? Just tell people, look, skip it. Don't have material desires. Well, they'll check out. They're not going to take that as authoritative because they have material desires. They want fulfillment of their desires. And then there's the flip side. There's people that are frustrated with those material desires and they want out. And so there's a message within the Vedas that looks like they have that's it. There's just negate everything and become Brahman and be happy. Be blissful in Brahman-ness. And then there's the conclusion. So the conclusion is there, not sufficiently emphasized by Vyasa and everything else, and therefore the Bhagavatam. So how are we to properly understand these things? Sambandha Gyan, the living entity and Ishvara and Prakriti, how are we to understand them? So it's there. And then there's crossing the ocean, material existence, that's important. So crossing the ocean can mean it just evaporates. The pond, that upadhi is gone and all you have left is Brahman. That's how Mayavadis would look at it. And the devotee, the Brahma, that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and as a follower of Brahma and this Sampradaya is teaching, it's paraphernalia. This world is paraphernalia to be used in Krishna service, and when you see it that way, the entanglement or the ignorance aspect of the material creation doesn't affect you anymore. That is, you crossed over the ocean of material existence. It's stopped. The ignorance factor of Prakriti stopped. So you use your senses and you use objects of the senses. It's like, okay, Prabhupada's favorite example, the microphone. So the microphone, all it is material elements, and material elements aren't spiritual, but that when they're used, and it can be misused in all kinds of other ways, but when used in service to Krishna, it has a spiritualizing effect by using it. In Bhagavad Gita, there's a really nice verse that explains what I just said. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnau Brahmanau Tam. I was a little surprised one time when visiting in one city. There was a a Bengali doctor that came to the meetings regularly. And I found out, years later, because I was visiting periodically, it turns out he had written his own commentary on Bhagavad Gita that was following Shankara's line. He was a very scholarly person. And one time, we had finished the class, we're going to the car, and he recited Shikshastaka 3. I said, "Where'd you hear that?" And he said, it was very much appreciated in Sringeri Mat. Trinadapi Sunichena. I said, "Really? They know that verse in Sringeri?" And obviously they understand its application differently. Kirtaniya Sadahari. They understand the Hari. They understand who Hari is different than we understand Hari. And then he shared with me, you in the beginning, before you honor the meal, the honor prasadam, you say these two verses, Sharira, Vijajal, etc. And he said, in Sringeri Mat, they say this verse from Bhagavad Gita, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir. The understanding is their eating has now become Brahman because everything is Brahman. By recognizing its Brahman-ness, the eating has its spiritual function because it's your Brahman is eating Brahman. Okay. To each his own. So obviously there's different ideologies behind how people look at the world and how people live their lives. So this is the Bhagavatam is grounding us in the conception of things, conception of Krishna, conception of living entities, conception of the universe, according to our sampradaya, Brahma sampradaya. What do the Vedas say about what's the right perspective on things? And is there such a thing as crossing the ocean material existence? This is what's in Vishwanath, because it's right in the verse. I'll read the verse again. Those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you in this way, as the very soul of all souls, the super soul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross the ocean of illusory material existence. And it's not there in the word, in the translation, but Iva is there. Iva bhava anrita ambutim. Ambuti means ocean. And amrita ambuti, excuse me, anrita ambuti is that which is not real or appears to be not real because it's temporary. And bhava, material existence. Iva, word for word is easily, but Vishwanath is saying like. So it's like you've crossed over the ocean of material existence. So by accepting the position of I'm a jiva, here is Paramatma, let me take shelter of him and worship him. According to what we just read, Rupa Goswami says that person is now eligible for Shantarati or Shantarasa, or a mode of neutrality towards the Supreme. Because what service do you do with Paramatma? He's a witness and you're smiling or you're being respectful because he's the master, you're the servant, and you're conducting your life and he's sanctioning things. Krishna jata shanti ratir mata. Krishna, seeing Krishna as Paramatma, mata, regarding or in mind. Krishne jata shanti ratir mata. Seeing Krishna as Paramatma, a person attains to Shantarati. The Brahmavadis don't attain Shantarati because they don't see. I'm the observer of Paramatma, who is the witness of everything that I do and everybody. They don't see that distinction, so they don't attain any rasa or rati or anything. And then comes, so they by study of the Upanishads, receiving mercy of Guru, they see Krishna as Paramatma. Mayavadis don't see Krishna as Paramatma, they see him as Brahman. They see everything as Brahman. But those who see Krishna as Paramatma, that means there's some contact with bhakti. They seem to cross the ocean of material existence. So then, do they cross or not? Well, it seems they cross means it goes out of existence. The illusory feature, it's not that, the universe evaporates, but the diluting effect, you're going back to text 22, the cause of misery is gone. Because they're no longer seeing it as an object meant for enjoyment, they're seeing it as paraphernalia for Krishna's service. So the illusory feature of creation is gone. And then it's just paraphernalia. So, the microphone, the camera, the chair, the room, the house, it's inanimate. And then there's animate, there's living entities, and sometimes they're this and sometimes they're that. Sometimes they're very pleasant, sometimes they're very unpleasant. So that's another feature of the creation. And the person who has become fixed in bhakti doesn't see friend enemy. Say it negatively. The person who is not fixed in bhakti sees friend enemy. The person who is fixed in bhakti sees, here's a spirit soul guided by these modes of nature, and I may not want to associate with somebody with that mode of nature, but their spirit soul is part of Krishna. Let me respect that living entity, from a distance, or something. So we choose our behaviors and our speech according to the covering. We recognize there is a covering which is real, although it's temporary. And then there's the bigger picture, the whole universe, the world in which we live. The universe is too big. Let's just say planet Earth, or just say, where we're living. And we're making, so the application of the philosophy is important. That's what I'm attempting to do. So, we're in a certain housing development, and there's some houses that kind of look alike, and there's some families that are very different, and they drive different cars, and they have their families, and they have the things that they do. And so there's all this diversity all around us, and we want to relate to that as the display of Krishna's energy, and we respect that it's Krishna's energy, respect that Krishna is reciprocating with different living entities in different way according to their modes of nature and their desires. And we're being selective about which mode of nature we want to associate with, while respecting the living entities within. We don't despise the modes of nature. It's Krishna's energy, but we may behave differently according to different modes of nature, and ultimately respect the soul, and especially souls that are oriented towards striving to reach the source of all souls. And then Shanta Rati, we can be peaceful. And then beyond that, there's different rasas. But at least there has to be this seeing of Paramatma and Atma, or the Supreme Lord, and us, and we're real. And the world in which we are is real. The deluding influence of the world in which we are can be easily crossed over. That's Bhagavad Gita. Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. You know the verse? Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tara. So one can cross beyond it. You know, it's not that it goes out of existence, or the false poof, it disappears like a magician. He makes something appear and poof, he makes it disappear. It doesn't disappear, but the deluding influence disappears, or you cross beyond it. Thus, they have been described as seeming to cross the ocean of material existence. In 2 verses, this is explained. The deluding influence of this ocean of material existence is destroyed. Then it gives the classic example. I'm hesitating whether to go into it. The rope and the snake example. It's not that when you see a rope, supposing you're walking along at night and you see something wound around, it looks like a snake. It means snakes are real and ropes are real, and you just mistake the rope for a snake. It means both entities are real. It doesn't mean the rope doesn't exist or the snake doesn't exist. To make the connection between the two, that both have to exist, you have to have experienced a snake to know, to have even the mistaken impression that the rope is a snake. Very logical. So they're real. So to cross over the ocean doesn't mean it stops to exist. That it's asat or anritya means it's temporary. And accepting the temporary to be all and all, that illusion is taken away by recognizing one's relationship as a soul, part of the Supreme Soul, and under His direction, being guided by Him. Even within the course of difficulty and struggle. Just got a letter yesterday from a young man, and he was a devotee, and he's struggling with that. He broke up with his girlfriend. Like his letter is filled with boo-hoo, or struggle at least. And he's like, it's consuming him for now. It certainly appears to be real. That suffering is, we don't just call it false, but it's not who he really is, and making that distinction will help him get on the other side of the temporary and take shelter of the eternal. But that emotion is really strong. It's got a big hold on him. To think of the eternal right now is really not something he's contemplating. So bhakti means to fix ourselves in that place of shelter, so that when turbulence comes along, which happens regularly, you're not disturbed, even when turbulence comes along. So let's see if there's some discussion.
Guru Maharaj, the philosophy of Madhvacharya is Dvaita.
Dvaita, yeah.
So he completely differentiated between everything, the material world, the living entity, and the Supreme Lord. Is my understanding correct that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reconciled it, saying that, there is Abheda, there is Bheda,
Yes.
but there is also both in, it's not like
Yes.
totally different, but there is
Yes.
connection.
Yes. Okay.
Actually, I don't have a question, but I just want to reconfirm what we
Okay.
discussed today, because the same topic I had covered with the kids. So
Ah.
what I taught them was this material world is real, but it's temporary and eternal.
Yes.
This is what I taught
Yes.
them. So
Prakriti is eternal. The shape of the universe is temporary. I mean, looking at your house across the street. There was a time when that house didn't exist. And there's going to be a time when that house doesn't exist. But the house exists. Temporary. It's real. It exists. It exists. In that sense, Sat. But it's temporary. In that sense, Asat. Online? No? Okay. You have something yourself. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. In the beginning of the class, we talked about the
I
dream.
can hear you better if the mask is down. And then when you're done, you can put it back up.
Two questions, Maharaj. One is about the dream. In the beginning of the class, got the idea that a dream is real and the emotions which comes during the dream is also real. I'm just asking this curious question. How can we engage?
How can what?
How can we engage the dream also for Krishna consciousness?
How can we end the dream?
We are to use the dream for Krishna consciousness.
How can you use the dream for Krishna consciousness? Well, when you're sleeping, you're being used by, you're not using anything. But the tendency to dream, you can fill your day with Krishna and you'll dream Krishna. That you can use the tendency to dream in that way. Like, so many things. Some persons in kirtan, when they're asleep, they're in kirtan because all day long, or they had whatever, they have the love for kirtan, and it's kirtan, or something like that. Okay, wait. Then he's got another.
Two questions. And the second one is, Maharaj, this is not related to the topic. It's something related to kind of a dream. I'm getting the intuition, Maharaj. Intuition is two times it happened. Something undesired news I'm going to hear, or I'm seeing a scene which is not pleasant. It gives me fear in my mind. Then after some time, that happens for real. So 2 times I observed this. Now my question is, Maharaj, if this kind of feelings if I get, how can I pray so that the person or whatever the things going to happen will be saved?
Well, you're not the controller. You can reach out to Krishna and pray for the well-being of the person who's in the dream experienced misfortune. But it's up to Krishna. You're not the controller. You can send good wishes from do lots of pure bhakti and send the benefits of your pure bhakti to that other person. By your spiritual attainment and your well-wishing for another, benefit can come. A benefit will be transmitted to the other person. But how Krishna handles that is up to Krishna. Next.
Guru Maharaj, question on the text translation, verse 24.
24.
It says that those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you, meaning Krishna, in this way as the very soul of all souls. So my application question is like the receiving. So the receiving means like just get the mercy of the spiritual master, or inquire and ask questions and perform service. In what way we can receive the clear vision of knowledge?
Well, it's really simple. Effort and mercy. You know that one. So the inquisitive spirit is part of our effort. And then patiently and enthusiastically, utsahan nischaya daryat, we wait for mercy. We're not passive, we're actively inquisitive, asking questions, and whether it's coming out your mouth or coming from your heart, the inquisitive spirit has reciprocation according to what Krishna chooses. Okay? That's it. Online? Okay, go ahead. Really small print, huh?
This is from Param Karunadas. Can we more specifically say that ingredients of Prakriti are eternal, not Prakriti itself?
Well, they're both eternal. No, that's not correct. The ingredients of Prakriti are part of Prakriti. Prakriti itself is eternal. Prakriti may be manifest this way or not manifest this way, but Prakriti is eternal. There are 5 factors, 4 of which are eternal, and Prakriti is eternal.
He goes on to say, although Bhagavad Gita says Prakriti and Purusha are eternal, more specifically, elements or constituents of Prakriti are eternal.
Yes, they're also eternal, because it's a subset of Prakriti. That's it.
Okay, this is from Sneha Vali Devidasi. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, my question is related to Shanta Rasa. It's a 2-part question. We know that in Shanta Rasa there is no service. My first part is how Krishna's flute and Govardhan mountain are serving him being in Shanta Rasa.
Well, I don't know that Govardhan is in Shanta Rasa. And as far as Krishna's flute, there's passages that describe Krishna's flute as being male, and the gopis say this isn't right. A male is always touching Krishna's lips. That's not right. So if the flute is Shanta Rati, you can send me, a scriptural reference that says that, because I'm unaware of it. And it seems to me that the flute is rendering some service, not just Shanta. And certainly Govardhan is rendering all kinds of service, and it's not Shanta. So Govardhan is very mysterious, isn't it? He's Krishna, and he's Krishna's best devotee. So you want to know what rasa is in? I don't know.
And the second part is how the gopis are describing both as superior to the devotees.
Well, they're not superior to the devotees. They're the best amongst the devotees. Specifically, Govardhan is the best amongst the devotees because of the ways in which Govardhan served Krishna. And the ways in which Govardhan serves Krishna is the best, according to the opinion of the best, the gopis.
This is from Girivara Daridas. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj is, quote, servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, end quote, upadhi of the soul.
No, that's the soul. Next.
This is from Amara Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, what is the difference between unreal and illusion?
Unreal and what?
Illusion. My understanding is that when I confuse something with something else, that's illusion. But unreal is falsity. Can you kindly shed some light on this, and what is the application of this for us?
Well, depends on who you are, what you can, and language has everything to do with circumstance and the application of that language. When, for example, when Prabhupada speaks of the 4 defects of the conditioned soul, he consistently explains that illusion means to accept something for what it is not. Like the body is who I am. That's his classic example. There's many other examples. When you accept something for what it is not, that's illusion. And the rest of what she asked, I can't recall. We speak of asat not as false, but as temporary, and thinking that the asat is sat, that's illusion, because it's temporary. But thinking that it's all in all, that there is nothing else, that's illusion. I don't know, did I cover her question? I'm not sure. If I didn't cover your question, Amara, you can ask it again.
She also asks about unreal. She asks, but is unreal falsity?
Is unreal, well, again, we covered that in this morning's class. I'll repeat what we covered in this morning's class. Unreal in the sense that it's temporary. How are we to understand unreal? Unreal in the sense that it's temporary. Something that's unreal means it's temporary. I mean, supposing the example that's been coming up is a dream, supposing it's just someone is hallucinating. They're hallucinating. So at the neurological level, they're experiencing something. It's not that something that they're experiencing doesn't correspond with reality, but they're experiencing something. Just like in a dream, you're experiencing something. On the subtle plane, and you can say the neurological system is experiencing something, but it's not what it appears to be. Like a mirage. There is water, and it appears in a mirage that there's water, but there's no water. So that's the sense of unreal. There's no water in a desert. Deserts are places where there's no water. So that there's water is unreal, but there is water. They're the appearance of something that's not what it appears to be. Okay, that's it.
I just wanted to add to what you said. If I consider this harmonium as mridanga, that is illusion.
Yeah.
And if I consider this harmonium as truth, and it is eternal, then that is unreal.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's paraphernalia to be used in service, and that's real. Until it breaks. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Well, you can't open it because the latch stopped working.